Hello and welcome everyone on this official platform of Legacy IAS Academy. So I welcome you all in the mains revision series which is started by Legacy IAS Academy, and here we are going to discuss the important topic from each and every subject. So today I am going to talk about the Chola's contribution in socio-culture. Now, when we talk about Cholas, when we think of Cholas, we don't just think of kings, we think of creators. Their temples were not just places of worship, they were the living museums of sculpture. Bronze, art is there, music, literature. So they actually turned the stone as well as metals into these stories. So if Cholas were the great kings, then their temples were their signatures, bold, permanent, and full of meaning. They built not just for gods, but for posterity. So, first of all, today in this session, we are going to discuss about the Cholas and their contribution about cultural brilliance. So, this topic is important for your mains examination if you go through the PYQs also. So, UPSC has asked multiple times in mains examination cultural contribution of Cholas. Okay. So, first of all, the background. Who were the Cholas? See, Cholas, they ruled from 9th to 13th century. 9th to 13th century. Their capital was Thanjavur, and the great rulers were Raja Chola I and Rajendra Chola. Rajendra Chola I and Raja Chola. These two were great rulers. Now, they used temples as a tool of power, art, economy, as well as devotion. Ji haan. So, what is Chola's architecture? So, Chola architecture, let me tell you, it is the peak of Dravidian style. Okay. Chola's architecture is the peak of Dravidian style of architecture, with grand stone sculptures, with grand stone temples, huge towers which is called as vimans, है ना? Exquisite sculptures as well as bronze idols are also there. So let me tell you first of all with respect to their architecture. So what are the key features? So first we are going to discuss about the key features of Chola's architecture. First, as you can see here, Dravidian style of architecture, it was mature during the time period of Cholas. Okay. First of all, this Dravidian style of architecture, which was started during the time period of Pallavas, it gained momentum, or you can say the peak period of Dravidian style of architecture was in the time period of Cholas. Second, massive vimanas which are called as temple towers in Dravida style. So massive vimanas, unlike earlier Pallavas rule, who focused more on mandapas, that is pillared halls. Clear? तो यहाँ पर जो विमानास टेम्पल टॉवर्स थे, those towers were very high during the time period of Cholas. So these temples were not just religious spaces but also socio-economic hubs. So in this way you can mention the socio-cultural contribution. So these temples were not only the places of worship but also socio-economic hubs. है ना? That means the center of learning, craft and as well as administration. So first we are going to discuss about the core features of Chola architecture. है ना? So let me tell you what are the core features. So just try to understand. Now, so with respect to core features, remember I am going to give you one mnemonic. What is mnemonic? Just try to remember this thing. Vast temple. ये तो सभी लोग याद रख सकते हैं मेंस में. They have created vast temple. So this is the mnemonic and you can use this for the core features. Core features in Chola period. Chola period. Now, So first of all, vast temple. What does it mean? What is the meaning of V here? V means Vimana. So this is how you can mention their architectural core features. Vimana, temple tower. That is, Vimanas were tall pyramidal tower. है ना, pyramidal tower, or you can say pyramid shaped tower over the sanctum sanctorum, that is called as Garbhagriha. So in Chola temple, you will see Vimana is taller than the Gopuram. Gopuram means gateway tower. So this is taller than Gopurams. Gopuram means gateway tower. Okay. Now, I can give you various examples because you have to give each and every हर एक segment का आपको example देना पड़ेगा. Example, Brihadeshwara temple, which has 66 meter tall Vimana. है ना, 66 meter tall Vimana, or you can say more than 200. You can say more than 200 feet. है ना? That is the height of Vimana. Now, second is A. A means axial planning. Axial planning. Now, what is this axial planning? So, let me tell you, the layout is symmetrical as well as linear. That means enter from east, then walk straight to the sanctorum. This is called as axial planning. That means enter from east and then walk into sanctorum. That means Garbhagriha. है ना? This shows that, so it creates a spiritual journey from outer world to inner world. This is how you should explain in mains examination. Then S means sanctum. S means sanctum here. Sanctum, that is Garbhagriha. Now Garbhagriha, smaller inner chamber housing the main deity, like Shiva is there in most of the Chola temple. Clear? Now Garbhagriha, if you see the feature of Garbhagriha, it is always dark and enclosed, which symbolize what? It symbolizes spiritual core. Then T means temple complex here. It means temple complex. Now, in Chola's temple architecture, more than one shrines are there, which includes the mandapas. It includes mandapas. Mandapas means pillared halls. Okay. Then it also includes the prakara. Prakara means walls. It includes prakara also. Then Nandi Mandap. Nandi Mandap also. है ना? So these things are there. So Nandi Mandap, sub shrines, all these things are there. Okay. This is vast. Now another mnemonic is temple. Here T means Tamil inscriptions. T means Tamil inscriptions. So Tamil inscriptions are used in Chola temples. So in temples we find that detailed inscriptions on the walls as well as pillars about the land grants are also there, temple duties are also there, as well as donations are also there. Then E denotes enclosed courtyard. Now this is enclosed courtyard. Enclosed courtyard कैसा होता था? A large rectangular courtyard which was surrounded by the walls. And this enclosed courtyard, it was used for festivals. Used for festivals. Then it was used for public gatherings. Used for public gatherings. Then it was also used for education. Then another M, temple, again mandapas. Mandapas. Now, mandapas means halls. Mandapas, halls. Now, these mandapas used for the rituals, dance, music, as well as public meetings. And these mandapas are supported by the ornate stone pillars with carvings. Then this P means processional path. Processional path. Ji haan. Processional path. That means temples built for the ritual procession of bronze idols on chariots, which is a symbol of people's participation. Then L means here, L means life size sculpture. Life size sculpture. Now what does it mean? Wall carvings, which shows that dancers, deities, kings, as well as mythological stories are engraved on the walls of the temple. Okay. Apart from this, this last E means emphasis on verticality. Now what is this? So last E means emphasis on verticality. Now what is this emphasis on verticality? So let me tell you that Chola temples, if you see Chola temples, they rise upwards, which symbolize the connection between heaven and earth. Symbolize the connection between heaven and earth. This is the symbolic relevance of Chola temples. Clear? This content you are not going to get in any of the books. Okay, this is the demand of UPSC. You need to understand these things, that each and every part in the temple architecture, what does it reflect spiritually. So what are the notable examples if we see? So let's try to understand the notable examples based on this architecture. Now, so as you can see here, notable examples. First is Brihadeshwara temple at Thanjavur. This temple was built by Raja I, and over 200 feet tall Viman is there. Not Gopuram, I am talking about Viman, that is temple tower, which is made entirely of granite. And that is why this site got the UNESCO World Heritage status. Second, Gangai Konda Cholapuram. So as you can see here, this temple, Brihadeshwara temple. आप देख सकते हैं Brihadeshwara temple. Why this temple is important? What is the relevance of this temple? So these things we need to understand. Okay. Now, so Brihadeshwara temple की अभी जैसे हमने बात की, तंजावर में है. This was built by Raja I. Vimana is around more than 200 feet. 200 feet, or you can say it is around 66 meters. है ना? It is around 66 meters. It is made up of granite, and there is no binding material. Here, there is no binding material. Clear? So in this temple, Nandi sculpture is there, huge courtyard, then lifelike murals are also there. Based on this only, it got the status of UNESCO World Heritage Site. Okay. Now, second example. Now, what is the second example? Second example is Gangai Konda Cholapuram. Now, this Gangai Konda Cholapuram, which was built by Rajendra I. Okay, this was built by Rajendra I, another important Chola ruler. This is more refined and graceful than Thanjavur, let me tell you. So here intricate sculptures are there, which is the unique blend of power as well as grace. So as you can see here, now here sculptures are more refined as well as graceful than the Thanjavur. Okay. Now here, as you can see here, this Viman is more curvilinear. More curvilinear Vimana, है ना? More curvilinear Vimana. Then in this temple, beautiful bronze idols. Beautiful bronze idols are also there. Clear? So this is the relevance. Third example, Airavateshwara temple at Darasuram, which is known for musical steps and sculptural detail. Now, Airavateshwara temple at Darasuram, this is famous for the musical stone steps as well as miniature sculptures. Miniature sculpture. Now, temples were adorned with the fine stone sculptures which is depicting the deities. Dancers, warriors are also shown in these sculptures as well as mythological scenes. Clear? Now, when we talk about mythological scenes, that means there are scenes from Mahabharata, Ramayana, then Purans are carved in the narrative panels. Puranic sculptures are carved in narrative panels. So this actually depicted the daily life and even royal court scenes in this temple. So these temple and their sculptures, they have depicted the daily life of that time period and also the royal court scenes. Now, let me tell you that Chola's sculptures are realistic. Chola's sculptures are dynamic as well as fluid, unlike rigid earlier model. Okay, that is why these Chola sculptures inside the temples are very important. So overall, if we see for UPSC examination, these temples that we have discussed, these temples actually reflect the centralized authority, urban planning, as well as state was giving patronage to art and architecture. Clear? Now, what made Chola's architecture unique? As you can see here the table, so first thing is feature. First feature is scale. Now, Chola's innovation, if you see, bigger architecture, more ambitious than Pallavas. Clear? Cholas were more ambitious than Pallavas. Then material, mostly they have used stone, unlike earlier brick-based temple. Then third feature, engineering, 80-ton of capstone which was placed on the top of Brihadeshwara temple. That is very important. Brihadeshwara Vimana. So that stone weight is around 80 ton. How they have carried? That's a single block. Then integration. Cholas, they brought art, devotion, music and administration, everything together. So they have integrated all the cultural elements. Then last but not least, function. Temples were banks also, temples were schools also, art galleries also, records offices also. So temples were not only the place of worship, temples were banks, administrative center, place of trade and commerce, justice system also, etc. So that is why temple architecture is very important. Now, apart from this, when we talk about Chola's bronze art, है ना, तो अब Chola's bronze art की अगर हम बात करेंगे, so first of all, sculptures we have already discussed and the scenes were from Ramayana, Mahabharata. Okay, so these things are there, है ना. Now we are going to talk about Chola's bronze art. Chola's bronze art, a timeless legacy, है ना. Why? First of all, let me tell you, in this they have used which technique? Lost wax technique. They have used lost wax technique. Clear? And the most important sculpture based on this, Nataraja. Nataraja, that is dancing Shiva. Dancing Shiva. Clear? So, now try to understand lost wax technique, which is also called as Sire Purdue. That means Cholas perfected this method of casting bronze. So, Cholas perfected this method of casting bronze. Okay. Now, the most important thing, Nataraja, that is dancing Shiva. This is the most iconic image. Most iconic, most iconic image. Now, this Natraja, that means dancing Shiva dance, this is a symbol of cosmic dance. It is a symbol of cosmic dance. है ना? It is a symbol of cosmic dance which combine religion, art as well as philosophy. तो तीनों चीजों का कॉम्बिनेशन है ना? Combining art, religion as well as philosophy. Okay, as well as philosophy. So what are the features of this? So first is graceful movements, है ना? Now what are the features of Nataraja's sculpture? First feature is graceful movement. जी हाँ, first feature. So as you can see here, first feature is graceful movement. Now, graceful movement, idealized body proportions are there, as you can see. Then spiritual expressions are there. So it is not just an art object. It is used in temple processions also. Okay. So Chola's bronze, you can say Chola's bronze sculptures, they bridge ritual as well as aesthetics, divine as well as human. This is the relevance of Chola bronze sculptures. Clear? Next. With respect to cultural contribution, literature always plays an important role. Now, literature, from devotion to administration. Now, what was going on in the background? In the background, Bhakti movement was going on. Alvars and Nayanars. That is why we can see here Tamil Bhakti literature. Now, Tamil saints, they patronize Shaiva and Vaishnava Bhakti. That means Shaiva followers are called as Nayanars, Vaishnava Alvars. Clear, as you can see here. That is why the most important thing, the Nayanars had the scripture called as Tevaram, where Shaiva hymns are included, and Alvars scripture Divya Prabandham, where Vaishnava hymns are included. So, apart from this, there are some secular contributions also, like Chola inscription. Now, Chola inscription recorded in Tamil as well as Sanskrit language, and these inscription deals with land grants, trade, irrigation also, then temple duties, justice system, etc. So, these are important for reconstructing the South Indian polity as well as economy. So, why these inscriptions are important? So, let me tell you that these inscriptions were engraved where? On temple walls. Now, inscriptions are also engraved on pillars, copper plates, which shows that there is a link between administration as well as art. Key, that there was a bridge, there was a link between administration as well as art. Apart from this, so as you can see here, Alvars and Nayanars, Nayanars and then Alvars. Now, another part of cultural contribution is related to cultural diplomacy. Kaise cultural diplomacy? Chola's naval expeditions. Where? To Sri Lanka. So, here Chola's naval expeditions. है ना? Chola's naval expeditions. Where? Sri Lanka, Maldives, then Southeast Asia. है ना? These things. So, let me tell you, that is why these naval expeditions of Cholas to Sri Lanka, Maldives, then Southeast Asia like Sumatra, Java, they spread Indian temple architecture, Sanskrit and Tamil culture. है ना? Because of this spread of Indian architecture, culture and languages, that is Sanskrit and Tamil. These things. So temples and inscriptions, they are found in Indonesia also, as well as Cambodia, which shows that Indianization was led by Cholas. So because of this Indianization led by Cholas in Southeast Asia. So overall, if we see, Cholas were the cultural ambassadors as much as they are conquerors. Clear? So these things you can mention here in this segment. Clear? So now just try to understand the Cholas. They did not just build temples, they built civilization in stone, they built bronze, then verses are there. So their legacy is not buried in ruins, it is alive in South India's temples, music, dance, and even devotion today. So now these are some important aspects with respect to the cultural contribution of Cholas. Now we need to understand from the perspective of UPSC mains angle. So when we talk about UPSC from the perspective of mains angle, first thing is this topic is important in GS paper 1 in mains, है ना, with respect to art and culture. Second, what you can do in cultural contribution, link with bhakti, है ना, link with bhakti movement, always link their culture with bhakti movement. Then temple economy, then you can mention their spread towards Southeast Asia. So India's soft power, this is also very important. Then it can also be connected to Indian heritage, connected with Indian heritage debates. So these points you should mention, है ना, Indian heritage conservation debates. So it is very important that you should mention all these points in your answer, है ना. Now my question here is, what was the purpose of Chola temples? Why they have created such huge temples? So what was the purpose? As you can see here, the purpose of Chola temples. First purpose. Now first try to understand, Chola's temples were not just a place of worship. They served temples for multiple things and multiple interconnected purposes. That is why they make them the centerpiece of Chola civilization. So the first purpose, as you can see here, religious purpose, that is spiritual powerhouse. Now, first of all, we need to understand what was the primary function. So here the primary function, now here the primary function is worship of Shiva, Vishnu or other deities. So primary function was worship, but there are other functions as well. They hosted rituals, festivals, bhakti movements as well as pilgrimages. Okay, so it represented the cosmic order, that is sanctum sanctorum, Garbhagriha, as the universe center. So this thing is actually reflected the deep rooted connection between the kingship as well as divine will. Then second important thing you can mention in this is, ये जो temples है, temples symbolize dharma as well as legitimacy. So temple symbolize dharma and legitimacy. Clear? Second, political purpose, which is a symbol of royal authority. Now this was built, now temples which are built by kings to showcase their power, piety, as well as legitimacy. So that is why they have created the grand temples. That means grand rulers were there. Example, Brihadeshwara temple, which was built by Raja I. Okay. Now, this reflects what? This shows that king was seen as a god representative on earth. Ji haan, king was seen as divine will, divine representative. Clear? So, temples were political statements. Okay, there were political statements also in the stone, if you see temples. Then third, economic purpose. Temples as economic hubs. Just now we have discussed. Temples were used for markets, trade and commerce. Clear? So, they used to own the vast land, manage irrigation systems, employed artisans, priests, dancers, all these you can say segments were there. Temples were also functioned like a banks. They used to receive and give donations. They store wealth also. That is why temple towns like Tanjavur, now when we see temple towns like Tanjavur which was developed around them, these temples was developed around them only and becoming commercial centers. That is why gradually temples became commercial centers. So overall, we can say that temples were economic institutions which supporting the local as well as state economy. Then fourth thing, social purpose, that is community integration. Now social purpose and community integration kaise? Temples were the center of education, है ना? Temples were the center of music. Temple were the centers of dance also, है ना? Were the centers of dance, centers of literature, sculpture. Temples, so in temple, the most important temple dance, Devadasi. Musicians are also there, so they supported Devadasi system, musician, artisans as well as scholars. So festivals and rituals which involve entire communities, which represents what? It represents social cohesion. So temples actually they brought people together across the caste. Sabhi ko saath mein lekar aa raha hai temple. Across the caste as well as class lines through festivals as well as services. Then temples were also used for administrative purpose as well as record keepers. Kaise? Now, there are various inscriptions which recorded land grants. In temples, in various inscriptions are there which recorded land grants, donations, duties of the temple workers. So temples were actually mini administrative units. Temple क्या होते थे? Temples were like mini administrative units. Okay, mini administrative units which helped to manage revenue, law as well as labor. So temples act like public notaries, archives as well as bureaucracies also. Then cultural purpose, that is art heritage center, as you can see here. Now how? Cultural purpose. Now temples preserved as well as promoted the bronze sculptures, murals, Tamil and Sanskrit literature also, performance arts, performance art like Bharatanatyam, then temple music, chantings, everything evolved here in the temples. So as you can, we can say classical dances like Bharatanatyam evolved here in temples only. So temples were the heart of Chola art, music and literary tradition. So let me tell you that for Cholas, temple were not just structures. They were living organisms. They were, you can say, they were the living organism that used to breath, or you can say that breath religions, economy, art as well as power. So they reflect the empire soul. They reflect the Cholas empire soul. They reflect the power of Cholas, which is sculpted in stone as well as in spirit also. Clear? This is the most important thing. Now, so this is about cultural contribution of Cholas, and I hope this much is clear to all of you. Now, so these things we have discussed. Now, a question for you, that you should do practice. Chola architecture. This is a PYQ of 2013 in art and culture. Chola architecture represents a high watermark in the evolution of temple architecture. Now, what you should write in this question, just now we have discussed. First, try to deconstruct this question. How you are going to deconstruct this question? पहला कीवर्ड आपको क्या दिख रहा है? हाई वाटर मार्क, है ना? दैट इज हाई वाटर मार्क. What does it mean? है ना? This represents the peak, then culmination, है ना? Culmination, or you can say golden age of something. Golden age of something. Clear? You have to mention this. Now, as you can see here, the question is asking, was Chola temple architecture the highest development stage of Indian temple architecture up to that point? If yes, why? Clear, everyone? This is the demand of this question. कि क्या चोला टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर हाईएस्ट डेवलपमेंट स्टेज है पूरे इंडियन टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर में? इफ यस, देन व्हाई? क्लियर? दिस थिंग यू हैव टू मेंशन. सो व्हाट यू हैव टू राइट? सो इन दिस यू कैन मेंशन द इवोल्यूशन ऑफ टेम्पल आर्किटेक्चर फर्स्ट. Then you can refer to how temple architecture got evolved, Nagara, Dravida, Visara, just in a very simple points. Clear? That how these temples evolved over time across India, especially in the south. Your focus should be on south because the main context of the question is related to the south Cholas. Then second step, here you need to understand the demand of the question. This is a statement based analytical question, not just descriptive. So you are expected to explain what Chola architecture is, which is already discussed. You have to write here. Then you have to show how it evolved from earlier stages. Pallava, है ना? So Pallavas laid the foundation of this South Indian temple architecture. Then you have to prove that this South Indian or temple architecture reached on its peak or high water mark during the time period of Cholas, with examples as well as features. Then you have to situate it within the broader Indian temple architecture tradition. So this is how you have to mention, you have to write this answer. So how you are going to write this question? How you are going to write this question? First of all, introduction should be within 30 to 40 words. Define how, or you can say what Chola architecture is and what high water marks implies here. So you can give the example also. Chola's architecture emerging between the 9th and 13th centuries is often regarded as the pinnacle of South Indian temple architecture, which is marked by scale, symmetry, as well as spiritual symbolism. So it reflects the culmination of centuries of architectural evolution in Dravidian tradition. Then you have to write the body of the answer. In body of the answer, first subheading क्या लिखोगे? Brief evolution before Cholas. Clear? So there you can mention the Pallava architecture, that Pallava used stones and began experimenting with Viman as well as Mandapas. Then you have to mention second thing, Chola contribution, why it is a high water mark. Then give the example, Brideshwara temple, just now we have discussed, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Airavateshwara temple. Then you can give the cultural and societal reflection of their temples, Cholas. Then after doing this, just write down the conclusion within 3 to 4 lines, that is around 30 words. You can reinforce the idea that Chola architecture was not just a structural evolution but a civilizational expression. So you can give various examples based on that the Chola temple architecture stand as a monumental testimony to India's artistic, spiritual, as well as engineering brilliance. And by uniting this form function, as well as faith, it marked a high watermark in the evolution of temple architecture. One that inspired centuries of temple building across South as well as Southeast Asia. Clear? If I tell you what should be the value addition points here, value addition points के लिए आप इस आंसर में क्या मेंशन कर सकते हो? Mark Chola temple sites, Thanjavur, Gangaikonda Cholapuram, Dharasuram, Airavateshwara temple. Then you can use the simple diagram. Diagram कौन सा? Just draw a simple floor plan of Chola temple. है ना? Floor plan बना दो Chola temple का. Clear? Then make these things, है ना? So all these things should be there. Just make a floor plan. Then अब अगर additional marks के लिए present अच्छा करना है, then you can use the quotation of Percy Brown. जी हाँ, you can use the quotation of Percy Brown in your conclusion. Now what is the quotation? Percy Brown calls Brihadeshwara temple as a masterpiece of Indian architecture. So these things you can mention in your answer. So this is all about Chola and their cultural contribution. I hope this much is clear to all of you. So like this, we are coming with different subjects. Thank you so much.